Right here. Do you think that would look weird?
I like it. Yeah, I'm into it.
That's really the one.
I like that one
Yeah.
too.
Let's make it happen.
All right, all right.
Let's make it happen for the forevs.
Awesome. All right, here we go.
I get so nervous every time.
Me too. It's the way it goes.
You'll understand, like, the band made my life happy. So getting the tattoo is just a reminder that, like, you are a part of something much bigger than yourself when you're a part of scenes like this. I might cry, hold on.
For me, that's where I feel the most connected to other people. Going to shows, to be in a large, awesome, sweaty group of people who all love each other.
Honestly, I can't remember the first time I saw a Matches tattoo because I saw so many. I saw so many Matches tattoos.
We were not like a tattoo-bearing band ourselves. So to have all these fans covered in our tattoos, like, oh shit, our band is a permanent thing for these people, like, I better keep it real.
Oh wow, that's really flattering that we mean that much to somebody that they would get a tattoo. But then other like, don't do that. That's like getting your girlfriend's name like relationships end, like bands break up.
I don't know. I don't know why they didn't become the biggest band in the world. They should have.
That sort of energetic live show and that hooky of songs and that good looking of boys. There was nothing to stop them. I thought that they were gonna be, you know, the next Green Day.
They were different enough to be cool and similar enough to make sense. The world was whatever they could make of it.
I was like, this show is awesome. This should be in an arena. I felt like I was experiencing like history in the making.
They were such a great band. The songs were great. The live show was amazing. They set themselves apart from day one.
You know, together they're wonderful friends, but individually, like, they're like the Spice Girls.
I related to Matt a lot because he was the business to the band.
Incredibly studious. He was always the organized one.
Sean was the mad scientist who bled creativity.
I don't think I've ever met anyone like him, and he's just such a presence.
Didn't hurt that he kind of looks like fucking Johnny Depp or something.
John is the sport jock punk rocker.
He was always doing something, push-ups or going for a jog at an hour that was weird.
Justin's always smiling, always happy.
Smiling. He encompasses the band as a whole. He and Sean were the two artsy guys in the band. I mean, they're responsible for a lot of the artwork.
The aesthetic of the band was top-notch. So it's kind of like, how did they not blow up? What was the Matches' downfall?
It has been a while since Bosnia has made headlines, and in the past, it has usually been bad news. Today, it's good, and it centers around the universal language of music. News Center 4's Joe Oliver reports.
Ladies and gentlemen, meet The Locals, an Oakland garage band featuring Matt Esposito on guitar, Justin Sansucci on bass, Matt Whalen on drums.
We named our band The Locals. We thought it was really funny to be a local band and to call yourselves The Locals. We never really played a real gig, but we did make a t-shirt. I screen printed them myself. My mom helped me.
Once you kind of get together with other people and you play music together, like it's a lot of fun. Plugging your instruments, and then it's kind of this magical thing that happens. You make a piece of art together. You get like high on that.
The team trio, along with lead singer Sean Harris, have already made their first world tour to Bosnia.
Matt's dad was involved in a charity that was bringing music and education to schools that were rebuilding in Bosnia.
Which had just gotten through a very brutal civil war.
They said, we need an American band to come over here. And he said, oh, well, you know, my son plays in a band. And they said, are they popular? And he said, yeah.
It was a very eye-opening experience being in a war-torn foreign country.
Everybody there had gone through so much, and you know, you can still play music and laugh and have fun, and that can be pretty powerful. It was kind of like the first insight into the connections you can make with music.
We came back from that, and it kind of lit a fire under our feet. This is worth pursuing further. Back then you had to send out physical press packs and then hope that somebody would eventually listen to your music. One day I got a call from a guy named Miles Hurwitz who had heard our demo and saying he was a manager. Like, we were all really excited. We're like, a manager wants to speak to it. Like, this is crazy.
So we had this guy, this adult, who, as far as we knew, was the industry. He told us, do you want to play stadiums? Do you want to tour professionally and have this be your job? And we were like, that's possible? Come on! Miles became our manager, and our guitar player, Matt Esposito. He had just gotten into military academy. It was like, this guy's full of shit. Also, I'm not sticking around. We weren't able to convince him.
But we're like, we gotta find a totally awesome guitar player who can shred and super cool to hang out with. We're looking for the most perfect person in the world. So I think we went through about like 30 auditions.
It felt like a parade of people coming in and out of the garage.
I mean, some of them were just terrible. And Sean's like, oh man, this like kid keeps, you know, messaging me.
First off, I want to be a fucking star. I want to be on stage. I want to be performing for people. I want to be wearing like sparkly, glittery things.
His mom drove him to audition because he didn't have a license yet. He's not 16, you know? He had a learner's permit.
I didn't have a lot of friends. I was a talker. I talked to a lot of people, like, but no one really liked me. I'd go home and like, I'd have all this energy still, and I would put it into music.
So he shows up and, you know, loads in.
I think the first song we played was Chain Me Free.
And we started playing. It was just like, holy shit.
And we played it once, and they were like, we're gonna go in this other room and talk for a minute.
Him, right? That guy. This is a kid. This is a guy.
And I was like, what the f, it's really weird. Can't we like maybe play it a few more times? Like, you're already gonna send me home?
You know, we're trying to play it cool while we're like screaming on the inside. Woo!
Pretty much every day from when we would wake to when we would go to bed, we were working on the band.
10 to 6 every day, you know, work hours. I would jump up and down and like play scales, and we took it really seriously, you know, like we wanted to put on the best show that we possibly could put on.
Miles was also telling us, oh, you know, it's like you got to work on your songwriting. It's really about the songcraft, and you guys have the seeds of what could be great songs. Miles showed me how to break those apart, figure out what a verse is, what a chorus is. I never thought about the craft of writing a song. That was huge.
And Miles presented a path, the background of like how artists can get to a point they can get signed. And it's not just, luck is a huge component of it, but you can't just like sit around and think people are gonna hear about your band.
Live 105.
We came out of the Oakland, obviously, and like, so there's bands like Green Day and Rancid, and there's this whole kind of punk scene. We had the model of like, oh, there's bands from our area that have done this, which could probably give us like a false sense of confidence, you know?
We really wanted to play this legendary punk rock venue called the Gilman, but they would not have us, which is why there was a quest to find a venue that we could book our own shows at.
We wanted to create something that encompassed people and minds and build a community, you know, create something bigger than yourself.
It was Miles that found iMusicast, and they were doing live streaming of concerts.
Late 90s, the internet was starting to blow up. And I had this idea, internet music broadcasting. I didn't know anybody else that was doing it. Like, seriously, I knew nobody else was doing it. And YouTube didn't happen until about 2004. And we were doing this in January 2000.
Locals, there we go.
There was a young band on the bill, the Locals.
What's up, everybody?
After the show, they came up to me and said, listen, can we do a show? Can we put on a show? When you have a venue, so many promoters will come up in here and say, oh man, we're gonna turn it out. We're gonna pack this place. It's gonna be sold out. I guarantee. No. 40 people show up, which was typical back then. We'd put on these shows and nobody show up. But, you know, tell me more and talk me into it. So they came up with an idea. Let's call it Loud, Live, and Local. Let's call it L3, and that'll be the thing.
Why they took a chance on us when we were unproven, but like, we did have an idea like how this could build.
And then we were like, shit, like, we have to figure out how to actually be promoters now.
Most people never look at flyers. We were like, maybe if we're playing the music while passing out the flyers, it'll resonate even just a little bit more, or we'll get somebody who might have just thrown the flyer away to actually look at the flyer.
We go to concerts that just got out, or like high schools.
We would take a stack, 2 handfuls of flyers, an acoustic guitar. We would drive to local campuses, run through the halls, and open up classroom doors and throw handfuls of flyers into classes that were being taught.
We're the Locals, you should come to our show.
I remember walking into Justin's room, and there were these like maps of like high schools and like lunch times and days of the weeks, and it was just like walking into a conspiracy theorist's room, and I was like, oh, these are my people.
We were like outside of Slim's. We heard somebody like, oh, not these guys again. And it's like, awesome, it's working.
They were outside at every show doing with flyers and busted their ass to make sure that people knew who they were.
I remember just being like mesmerized by Sean. And I didn't even see their whole set. I literally saw the end of it. And I was just like, who are these people? Like, I was hooked from then on.
It went from like 90 people the first show to 350 people a month later to like 400 people a month after that. And the next thing you know, it's like selling out and we're selling 600 tickets or something.
The artwork for the L3 shows was awesome. Every show had a really cool poster art.
It really made sense for me and Justin to do all the art because we had artists in the band, so we didn't have to pay anybody. We were trying to cut costs at any juncture that we could. You know, we had like a mom and dad at the door, 2 dads on security, and like a mom at the snack bar or something. You know what I mean? It was.
The parents would take tickets, and they would, like Dan would go out and he would.
I was the security. I'd get my dog. I would walk around the parking lot.
And he would get to know all the kids who would come to the shows.
I would have the
and the
kids
parents would
park
come and talk to Dan to check to make sure everything was okay.
It's hard to describe
It was like out of a movie. They were just having so much fun.
These bands from all over the country were super excited to come and play these L3s because they would get 500, 600 kids to come and just go freaking nuts. And that's kind of where the relationship with the Plain White T's came in.
I swear to God, you guys are like the best crowd we ever play for.
We were able to come out and do an L3 show. It was the coolest experience ever.
I'm in the middle of the night, saying that you just got home.
We got to be a part of this already created and thriving scene in Oakland in the Bay Area.
There was a tipping point. Anytime there was a show, people would not only come just to see the band that was playing, they would come to see each other. And a community formed and a scene popped up. That was an incredible experience to suddenly have a group of people who felt passionate about this thing.
I'm just a dog in pace. Turn that to where's the face for me when we're both in love with you.
You know, it's like we find that place you can go be yourself. You don't have to hide or, you're worried about sticking out in high school and then coming to L3 and you stick out, but everybody else sticks out too.
It was this just family community atmosphere of, I don't care if my parents are there, I don't care if my little sister is there. You were there to hang out and see the music and be a part of something that was special, and it was really special.
It was such a community-based feeling. To be their fan, you felt almost like a member of the band, almost.
I see a lot of familiar faces, and it's really fucking great. Thank you. Come say hi to me. So I want to talk to all of you.
The whole act of being an artist is that you make something that's true and real, and people find their identity through something that you made, and they make it a part of them, and that's in essence what happened with L3.
Welcome to iMusicCast. It's a place that's developed a sense of community.
Before I came here, I only listened to mainstream rap and stuff, and now I'm totally into ska and some punk.
The idea is to keep working it, and maybe eventually getting on the next iMusicCast DVD release, then a record contract, and who knows, eventually, the American Music Awards. In Oakland, Don Sanchez, ABC 7 News.
It's a great idea.
Sounded good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
At this point, we realized we have enough songs, we should record them and then decide what to do with them. We need to find somebody with some good equipment and good place. And but we didn't go that route. We ended up taking a chance on two guys we knew.
We recorded them right after I graduated high school, and I just remember being wildly excited when I burned them to CD and listened to them over and over in my bedroom. Fuck, this is really good.
Whole Yvonne Dahl record was just so low rent. I cannot believe that we got anything of any consequence out of putting amplifiers in laundry rooms and microphones and washing machine barrels and stuff that now you just would never want to do in a million years.
That whole time was such a blur of intensity, and I just remembered, hey, these emails are coming in, what are we gonna do?
Some band from Chicago was called Yvonne Dahl and the Locals. They sent us a cease and desist. And at first we were like, no, this is our name. And then we're like, yeah, but we're not really wearing those Hawaiian shirts anymore, and it's a pretty lame name.
We were just writing down any name you could think of. I mean, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, so many names. It came so close to choosing the Moxie, so close.
I think somebody decided that it sounded too old-fashioned and feminist. That girl's got moxie. I thought that was cool, but anyway, the match as it was, and that's what it will always be. But we named the album Yvonne Dahl Killed the Locals. We just sort of changed the spelling of her name so that her lawyer didn't contact us again. We went to disc makers and pressed 500 CDs.
I put together hundreds of CDs, and I spent so much time at Kinko's. Like, I think they knew me by name.
Actually having a physical CD made it feel real. Like, this is a real thing. This is what real bands do, is they make albums and they tour. So it's like, time to hit the road.
You know, they allowed us into their world in the Bay Area, so we brought them out to Chicago.
And we were young and dumb and hungry enough to drive 4,000 miles round trip to play for 30 minutes, but in front of 1,000 people. Whatever we could do to get a show, we did. DIY styles, sleeping on people's floors, trading shows with ska bands in El Paso and stuff.
Way out on our own, places we'd never played before where nobody's ever heard us. And that was pretty awesome.
Just put your heart into everything that you do because you never know who's gonna be watching.
We were down in LA, and the show that we had was supposed to be at a coffee shop. It was a trade with some band. The band didn't show up. The coffee shop did not have a PA. And a guy that was there was just getting a panini or something like that. He's like, well, I have a PA. I've got a studio space down the street. Like, I'll let you guys use it. We're like, okay. So he shows back up with a van and a PA. And they set it up and we play the show. And he's like, that was really great. I managed a band called Real Big Fish. And we're like, yeah, whoa, no shit.
I don't know how to really describe it, because when you see a band that you just feel it in your bones that you need to work with them, they wowed Real Big Fish. I mean, I think they did it within their first song. Aaron looked and said, yes, we are bringing them on tour.
And he like shows us the itinerary, and it's like every major city in America and Canada, and you're gonna get paid $100 a night guaranteed. And we're like, oh my God, $100 a night? It felt like, like we won the lottery. I remember like Real Big Fish saying, no, when you guys blow up, you're gonna take us like to open on your arena tour, like betting on a future for us.
We learned some great lessons from them. One night when we were on that tour, somebody yelled, sell out! And they're like, okay. And then somebody yelled, beer! And they played that. And then somebody yelled, sell out again. And they're like, are you kidding? We just played, fuck it. And they played sell out again. They played for an hour and 15 minutes. Sell out, then beer. Then sell out, then beer. Then sell out, then beer. They played both songs 8 times, and then they were like, good night. It was amazing. And we're standing outside the stage like, oh, you can do that?
This song's called The Restless. It's on our album, Yvonne Dahl, Kill the Locals.
We were still an unsigned band going on tour with Real Big Fish. That's when people started like talking about us.
As soon as you have a band in front of a national audience that doesn't have their CD in stores, the money grabbers are like, whoa, they sold how many copies of Kinko's folded albums? They sold 10,000? That's money. Let's amplify that, you know?
We wanted to be an indie band for our first couple records.
We didn't want to be sellouts, you know? That was still a thing.
But also, if a major label is offering you a record deal, like, you take the meeting. You fucking take the meeting.
Jive Records, Epic.
The guys would come pick me up from my dorm room and take me to their meetings and introduce me as their producer.
American, Immortal.
We just had no idea that it would get them introduced to the biggest players in the music business.
Fueled by Ramen, a lot of them.
I'm forever indebted to them for jump-starting my career.
So we were living like a very weird existence in that we were making just enough money to get from point A to point B. We were not able to stay in hotels. We were asking on stage to stay with people. I would be like splitting a foot-long Subway sandwich with Justin at lunch on our like meager per diem, mixed in with the occasional, like an A&R guy from major label fly out and put us up in like a Ritz-Carlton hotel for the night one night.
Buying like $200 bottles of wine.
And then like I'd eat like, you know, an $85 like Wagyu beef steak. It was a very weird dichotomy.
But then when it comes time to negotiate how much money they're gonna put into our band, they're gonna be stingy about like, oh, I don't know if we can give you 20 grand, we can maybe give you 10 grand.
We were very naive. In my mind, up until that point was like, you sign a record deal, they give you money, and they put a record out. That is just not how it works at all.
So check this out. Let's say every dollar that the label makes, we make 25 cents. Let's say the label spends $500,000 to market and make an album. So we're only making 25 cents for every dollar, right? The label pays themselves back, but we pay that back through our 25 cents of each dollar. So the label would have to make $2.5 million for us to pay back that $500,000 that they put into it. Like, I can't even complain because I'm obviously in a good position because, you know, because the label spent $1 million to promote us, but we, from selling, you know, 5 million plus copies of Hey There Delilah, you know, over 1 million albums, we have not made any money from the record label, from music sales.
Publishing is really where songwriters make their money, that and touring, obviously. But from the strictly the songwriting recording process, it's all publishing now.
We had publishing deals coming in, like Miles being like, no, you want to keep your publishing, like you're gonna make way more money on the back end with if you own your own publishing.
That was our biggest ask, was to just license Evangelica the Locals and be able to have the masters revert back to us.
L3 is home. This is where it's at.
And this was a Miles Hurwitz idea. Part of our prerequisite to any label that wanted to seriously talk to us was that they had to send somebody to come see an L3. We felt L3 symbolized what we were about, like the music, community, the DIY ethos.
Shower is slow, flowers grow, side of my window are blooming. I'm assuming that you're coming soon.
So the record labels are started coming up.
Come skinny, come bring a trend.
The thing about the L3 was it just stood out completely. Nothing about it was contrived. It was just magical for everybody in that room.
Jive was like the biggest like pop record label at the time.
Probably one of the best record labels you could be on when it came to breaking something to radio.
Pablo came out and he's like, cool, so he started asking us questions like, what do you guys want? And in a lot of ways we didn't quite know, but we knew a lot of things that we didn't want. You know, we were like, we don't want to have our career be dependent on a single.
I know that if we signed them to Jive, I know we would have had a huge hit song at radio.
And he was like, cool, well, enjoy your dinner tonight, guys. You do not want to sign to Jive Records. And we were like, okay. What better way to know that you can trust someone than them speaking against their personal interests for you, you know what I mean?
I would have done a disservice to them, and that would have sat with me a long time.
Eric Valentine thought he had the inside track to sign the matches, right?
We were like so excited because he'd done the Third Eye Blind album that all of us were like, that sounds amazing.
The Matches, first record, I was just totally blown away by it. And then finally sort of put it together. It was recorded on a laptop in a basement. It was just astonishing to me. It sounded impossibly great. And they were a great live band. I think Rick Rubin was there that night.
I remember Rick Rubin walking through the crowd and people just being like, the band's backstage, like, oh, there's this like hobo guy that looks like Rick Rubin in the crowd.
Then Eric Valentine comes backstage and the first thing he says to us is, Rick Rubin's here. And we're like, nice to meet you. And you could tell that he was like, fuck, I was gonna sign this band. Rick Rubin asked, well, what would be a perfect record label for you guys? And we were like, Epitaph?
They were and still are like the biggest indie label in terms of market share, in terms of how many albums are sold.
Brett Gerwitz flew out and met us somewhere in the middle of nowhere, hanging out with us, and like he helped us load our trailer, and he's just like the coolest dude in the world. He was like, you know, I didn't think with all like the interest you guys are getting from like other labels, like you'd be too caught up in everything else to talk to me. And I was like, no way, man. Like, you're like why I love punk rock, you know? We signed the record deal at like Pizza Parlor. We did it. Paper cut. Cheers. But then you realize like there's so much more work to do.
There was no, like, now we have a record deal, now everything is different.
We were still living at home with our parents. There wasn't like bags of cash getting dropped by helicopter into our yards. Like, it's not what happens, you know?
They do a few amazing things for you, but you have to take those opportunities and you have to carpe the motherfucking diem.
Somebody was actually spending money on us. So we made our first music video for Chain Me Free.
Yeah, it's a performance video, but there's a really cool twist on it, which is when it comes to the choruses, everything that has happened in the video suddenly turns around and goes in reverse. So we actually had to learn to sing the choruses backwards, which goes, Hi, Nimzikish, Hade say, Why, Mickey, why, Mickey, Waff, Elo, here, ooh, we ne, shed me, ooh, free.
To have that kind of enthusiasm for anything in life, it's something that I don't see very often from anywhere in music. And sometimes it was like, well, shoot, how do we market this band to this fan? Because they're just a little bit more on the outside. But other times it was like, oh my God, this band is so easy to market because like, look how unique they are.
You know, we were now trying to win over the world versus, you know, trying to win over a local show.
Oh boy, Warped Tour. Woo! I'm gonna pass out even thinking about it.
I've always looked at it as a platform for independent music. We kind of got known as that punk rock summer camp.
It's a great experience because you can really expose your band to hundreds of new people.
It makes you appreciate the fans even more because there are so many other bands playing at that exact moment.
The way they really stood out was they would always like throw tricks, like not only their music, but they were always great marketers and great animators.
We had a day off and we stayed up all night just making this animation on a whiteboard in a hotel in New Orleans.
Some people may have taken it like offensive, some of the stuff they sent me, but it was more like, hey, these guys are approaching it in a unique and different way. Punk rock was about to offend in some ways, except when they had me having sex with a sheep. I forgot about that one.
It was weird.
You know, I don't think I ever had sex with a sheep.
In hindsight, I can't believe we sent that out.
What Warped Tour does is it lets you know like how hard being in a band is gonna be. Like, this is about as hard as it's gonna get because you're going from 8 o'clock in the morning until midnight, and then you drive overnight, and then you do it again for 2 months.
They play these parking lot shows, you know, for kids who are in the show already, maybe a lot of kids who maybe didn't get into the show. I don't know how they weren't losing their voices.
Showing up in the parking lot and playing acoustic guitar was still important to keep it about the community.
They could be playing Madison Square Garden and they'd still be outside with their acoustic guitar causing a ruckus on the streets.
A lot of people just wanted to be around them, and even if it meant making beans, if anything, for money, I think that people really wanted to do them a favor because they really believed in the matches.
I basically sought out the matches and made them hire me because they had become one of my favorite bands at that point.
It's not like I got a 4-year degree to be a merch girl. Like, that wasn't what I thought was gonna happen, but I never left.
Our ears perked up immediately when we heard the matches.
It just stuck out in the best possible way, like a sore thumb at Warped Tour, and we just kind of made a beeline towards them.
We noticed early on that bigger tours don't come from your booking agent or from your record label. They come from like making one-on-one connections. You know, Sean is a phenomenal songwriter. Justin's an unbelievable bassist. Matt was some drummer. And John went in was terrifying, terrifying sidemen I've ever seen on a stage. It's nice when you feel like you've got your kind of little secret that you're letting everyone know about.
These guys are artists. They're not just guys who play music. They're actually like in a whole other world. You know, you've got 3 guys making art projects backstage, and then Matt just like they were all just weirdos. And like watching them live, it was like a monster truck rally on stage.
I've wrung out their shirts, and their shirts are just hanging on the bus side view mirror, just airing out.
The nights that we had to headline, we'd be like, fuck, we gotta play after that.
The bands I was working with were pretty energetic and full on, but they were fucking explosive.
Sean was like, he would write a song every day.
You don't write a song every day on this tour, and he did.
Yeah.
He wrote a song. One time, we had amassed all of this beer. He came in the dressing room, remember? And he's like, there's no water again? I'm like, dude, they're all gone. And he goes, fuck. He's like, what the hell? We are human beings. We need water.
Little did he know, we did need beer.
We did need beer, actually.
We did need beer.
After the shows, we'd like jump out and sell CDs. We were selling so many CDs out the back of our van that SoundScan wouldn't count them because we thought we were cheating. And we were like, no, like these are the real numbers. SoundScan's response was, you either have to accept this or we're not going to count all of Epitaph Records. And we're like, all right, whatever, we lost that one. We were really hoping that like kind of cross that 100K level, but we just, you know, came up a little short.
So when I started working here, it was 2003. And that's, you know, around the time, arguably, when just the overall profits of the music industry started to dwindle. As soon as you think that you know something, you're setting yourself up for failure.
The idea is deceptively simple. It's called file sharing.
The first time I really used Napster, I downloaded tons of music, but all of it was terrible quality. And like half of it was like labeled incorrectly. And I could only listen to it on my computer with like my crappy computer speakers. So like, you didn't really think like this is gonna be the new thing, because at the time it was like, this is just a broken piece of junk.
It's unquestionably the biggest transition the music industry has gone through. And it's one of those things where it's like that toothpaste is not going back in the fucking tube. There's no way. I mean, people just love getting free music. You're like, okay, we just got to make this record in a few weeks, and that's all the money that we can justify.
There's no artist development. The period between I Think You Have Promise to Where's My Hit Record is this big now.
A band like Pink Floyd, you know, it took a while for them to get to Dark Side of the Moon. If that band started now, they'd never get the chance to make that record. That's the danger of what's happening now, is the lack of support to be able to develop an artist through that process and to actually get to that point where they make a genre-defining, career-changing, zeitgeist record like Dark Side of the Moon, which became one of the greatest selling records of all time. It wouldn't happen, and we'd miss out on it.
As we started to think about making a second album, I don't remember whose idea it was. It was probably a Miles and Sean idea, but it was like, why don't we just like try recording with all these different people. They do this in hip hop and pop all the time.
From bands that we knew from the radio, thinking we would never exist in that same world, thinking that there wasn't a possibility.
It was really cool and brave of them on Decomposer to use a lot of different producers. It was one of the first times that I'd heard of a rock band doing that. To be honest, you know, I was glad to be part of that.
Some of those hooks was just like, yes, I love this band. I want to work with them. Sign me up.
There's an internal musical argument happening in every single one of their songs. They were so different than a lot of the stuff that I'd worked with in the past.
We couldn't afford to do a full record with any of these people, but when they realized, oh, they just want to do a few songs.
It was like going from making a little indie movie to trying to make like our big budget feature debut. It's the kind of stuff you dream about as a kid.
It was like a great crash course in recording for us. Nick Hexum's approach versus Mark Hoppus's are so different, you know? Mark is like punch every line. Like there were guitar chords when he's like, the guitar chord doesn't sound like perfect enough. Here, play all 5 notes from that chord separately, and then we'll put them on different tracks and play them at the same time. And that has a sound to it. And then Nick was like, everyone in a room together, everyone play it live. And we're like, oh, that's totally the opposite.
I know we were doing things unconventionally, but that's how great things get done.
I remember, you know, Miles, their manager, was more involved than I had been used to a manager being.
It was just unlike anything that I'd seen before. It was almost like a controlling father.
I'm calling Christopher.
Why are you calling?
Christopher, you told me to. Like Mark Hoppus or John Feldman, we could be like, Miles, shut up, leave the room. This is the guy from Blink-182. Let him do his job. You know, he knows how to make a hit. Quiet.
When he was gone, I would say to the band, is this what you guys want? Are you cool with this? Like, I'll do whatever. I don't work for your manager, I work for the band, obviously. And they kind of were like, yeah, I guess, you know, if he wants that, then yeah, let's just do it. And it was definitely a strange dynamic.
It got to this point where Sean would have to bring his creative ideas to Miles before bringing them to the rest of the band. It sounds crazy talking about it now, but it was a way to control Sean. And I know that our record label was so annoyed with Miles. They just wanted us to just like be a simple band, be like everyone else. Like, okay, let's try it their way for once. They know what they're doing. They've been doing this longer than we have. What the fuck do we know?
Day out, day in, it's the alarm versus me and the snooze button wins.
When it came time to do a video for the album, they were like, great, here's $40,000, which to us was like, holy shit. I think at first when we were like, well, let's take $40,000, let's make like 3 or 4 or 5 videos off the album because we want to showcase a lot more of the album. And they were like, no, spend it all on one, have a huge single with it. And then we didn't have any budget to do any other songs off of it. Salty Eyes, we really wanted a video for. You know, we shot that video for about $800. This video we made on our own dime and on the budget of friendly favors from the people that you can't see that are standing behind those cameras.
Sean and Emily drew up like a dance step plan for everything and like marks for everybody while learned the rehearsing. And then when we got the room, we only had enough TVs for like one take.
1, drop, 2, drop, 3, drop, 4, drop, 5, drop.
Tongue at the top of your lungs. Are you drunk? Have you been drinking? Do you Tabasco. With the fifth in your fist, reminiscing the kiss of a love that just didn't love as much as you did. But please don't give up, dear.
Epitaph was, I think, really surprised.
When you belong to a song, salty eyes, you belong.
You know, Paper Cut Skin ended up with maybe a tenth of the amount of views that Salty Eyes got. And we got so much more press and attention for that one. They were like, sorry, we were wrong. That's a great video. Thank you. Can you make more now? For no budget.
To me, Decomposer was like the album. Like I heard that and it just like it oh my God.
It was very emotional for us. You know, we put like everything we had into it.
We were dreaming big. We were dreaming real big.
This was coming out on a label. We had built a really strong fan base.
And things don't always go exactly as planned.
This funny thing happened between 2004 when Yvonne Dahl Killed the Locals came out on Epitaph and 2006 when Decomposer came out was like the full transition of the music business from people actually buying CDs to really not buying albums at all.
It had a decent start, but it kind of tapered off.
These numbers that to us were kind of depressing, but to have people around us telling us like, no, like numbers are going down for everyone. This number is basically the same as what that number was a few years ago.
It was confusing because record sales in general were declining. But our shows, since we'd put so much time in as a touring band, were still kind of growing.
Everyone felt like Decomposer was going to be the record that broke them. And when it didn't, I think there was a little bit of like, oh, what are we going to do?
Hi, I'm Sean from The Matches. I want you to get our new CD. I'd love you to buy it. A bunch of you will get it without buying it, though, and that's all right between you and me. But see, it poses a rather large-scale ideological problem. Okay, there are two types of people in the world. Those who believe there are two types of people in the world, and those who know this is a banal simplification. But for the sake of communicating my point, let's just go along with the two types, okay? Those who download records and those who purchase them. Now, though I'm a musician, and my livelihood in great part depends on the latter of the two.
Everybody thinks that you make way more money than you do. I weirdly watched tons of like late night talk shows when I was a kid, and I remember like you see a band on there and you think any band that if they're just on TV, like they must be millionaires and making all this money, but no, not even close most of the time.
And all of your friends back at home and all of your family, like they see you on tour and they see you putting out records and they think that like, oh, like you're doing it. Everything is amazing.
Touring is expensive. So is going into the studio, so is paying your crew. It just adds up.
Probably most people don't realize just how expensive it is to operate a band.
You gotta buy a lot of merch, gas, you gotta hotels, travel's expensive.
We had a guitar tech, Ben. We had our merch girl, Monica.
Even bands that are losing money, they still need a guitar tech on the road. I was making like $350 cash under the table, $350 a week.
I never had to file taxes because I never made enough money to have to file taxes.
The money that came in went directly to pay those expenses. We lived off of a whopping $10 a day that the band paid us.
If you want to be in a band, you want to be a musician and be able to make a living doing that, you're most likely going to be on the road and probably be on the road a lot because that's just how you survive. And unfortunately, it's also the thing that breaks a lot of people.
We had to keep touring. We basically just had to continuously tour.
I like that you're asking me how many tours we did. How many times have you brushed your teeth?
Between 200, 300 shows a year. We put 250,000 miles on 2 different Chevy Express vans.
People have kind of a preconceived notion about glamour in touring. There's not. I mean, it's dirty, it's smelly, it's gross.
They worked their asses off, and they weren't living it up. They weren't in fancy tour buses. You know, they were in a van most of the time. They didn't splurge on, you know, anything.
They'd wear the same clothes, you know, like every show, and the smell was so bad. I used to call Sean Soggy Britches, because he would, like, change his pants, but keep his, like, soggy underwear on. It was so gross.
You start to get into your mid to late 20s, and your friends are, like, starting to have real relationships with humans. They all have got apartments and can afford car payments and stuff, and you're like, I can borrow the band van if I need to come over.
You know, at the point where I had to, you know, borrow money from my dad to go drive to band practice, and I was like 28 years old.
It just sort of extended our adolescence in a sort of uncomfortable way the older we got.
We got to finish the next record because, you know, maybe the next record will, you know, push through the ceiling. That's kind of where Abandoned Hope came from. That was where we were. We were just like, we're hopeful for good things, but we're all, you know, we kind of need help. We were trying to figure out how to finish these songs and found this place called Talking House in San Francisco.
We created this studio so that we would have a place where artists could settle in for quite a while and not be on the clock and not be charged for studio time and really craft their product.
Yeah, put your headphone stand is now.
Miles first sent me Decomposer, and I loved it immediately. We said, absolutely, we'll work with you as much as you want to work with us.
When we were Talking House, Miles had a heavier hand. It was, I feel like we were never in a room with just the 4 of us anymore.
He wanted to like produce our songs and music. He really wasn't a producer.
I don't know. It was not as, the record wasn't as fun to make. So, but I've had people say that that's their favorite of our records too. So I don't want to color it by saying I just, my experience making it wasn't as fun. Yeah.
So what do you think you're gonna buy today?
I think I'm gonna get the matches. I'm gonna get the matches.
All right, let's go. Abandoned Hope seemed to be very well received by our fans, by people in the scene, by publications that reviewed it. We were on the cover of Alternative Press, we were on the Alternative Press tour, and at the time that was a really big tour to be on. But album sales had further eroded in the industry by 2008, so it was like seeing our SoundScan numbers was kind of like, you can't put much like stock in it because nobody's selling anything close to what they used to sell.
I remember joking about how every record sold half of what the previous one sold.
Instead of a band in hope, I was writing everywhere Abandoned Hope. That's kind of how I felt. It was a really kind of tough time.
Okay, action.
Hello, we're the Matches. I'm Matt.
I'm Sean.
I'm John.
And that's Justin.
I knew something was up with Justin during the Alternative Press tour. He was not himself.
Yay.
We had a particularly intense period of touring.
About
We can't wait to go to Japan.
Can't wait to see you. Until then, buy our new album, Abandoned Hope.
You could tell he was burnt out. Usually he was like pretty happy-go-lucky, jovial person, and he loved talking to fans. I remember on that tour, he was not wanting to be out by the merch table. And to me, like that, if like Justin doesn't want to like hang out with people, that's not the Justin I know.
Like overnight, it seemed like Justin stopped being so playful. I was like, oh man, this is bad.
I could see the trajectory. You know, you could see like really successful bands spending 20 or 30 years on the road. It just takes like a crazy toll on you. When you're 40 and you live in a van, you know, you're still crashing on people's floors, like that's not a very appealing future. Like all that stuff starts kind of creeping in. It's hard to focus on the creative stuff anymore, you know? When you can barely feed yourself.
Justin was my closest friend in the band when we started the band. We were art buddies. It was sad and heartbreaking to face the realization that, you know, this thing that we built together, he was like, this is fucking up my life. I can't do this anymore.
You know, you just feel like everything you've done for like the last 10 years, you're just kind of turning your back on it. And it, like, I felt I was just constantly sick. Like, I was like physically ailed. It was the hardest decision I ever had to make. I just had to completely leave, you know, kind of separate myself from that world. I left the band, put my bass in the closet and shut the door.
It was just weird when somebody you've known for so long and has been like next to you every day for years is like no longer there. I was still hopeful for the future, still like ready to give it another album. I want to see this through to the point we'd originally planned, which is indie label to major label.
We were still like, let's just give it one more chance, one more big push.
We've been on the road like pretty much nonstop since like 2003 or something like that, 2002. Yeah, we're lucky enough to have it be our life, you know?
They got their friend Dylan to start playing bass, but it didn't feel as much like, hey, it's still the Matches.
Dylan's awesome, for the record, but it just wasn't the right fit. I don't know if anything was the right fit. We were trying to bring in a person to save the band, and that's not fair.
The album just came out. We're coming off a high-profile tour, and it was the first time ever since we started touring that we had nothing. Usually somebody wants us to tour with them. Nobody's calling. We never had not toured in the summer, ever. We felt like we kind of had the gun to our head.
It's really scary to have this dream and passion that you've had for your whole life to admit, like, oh, this thing I've been working on for 10 years, I don't think it's what I want. I don't think this is it. That's really freaking scary.
I had no resentment towards the other members of my band. We had gone through so much together. Little things like spilling milk in the front of the van, John. Throwing a bass into a kick drum at the show, Justin. These are all very forgivable because we had spent so much time like working as a team.
We were doing a show in Philadelphia, and Sean texted all of us like, hey, like, can we all meet up before we go to the show? So we went in to his hotel room and it was like, hey, like, where are you guys all at? I feel like we're all not feeling this right now. And then Sean's actually one that brought the idea of like, maybe we should just call it. Like, maybe we should just walk away now, like, while we're all still like each other. I mean, we unanimously agreed, like, yep, it's time. I pitched the idea of doing a last show. We decided it'd be a cool way to honor the fans and also just a chance to say goodbye. We didn't make it to where we wanted to make it, but we made it way farther than almost anybody ever makes it in the grand scheme of how many musicians try and do this for a living.
It was such a freaking crazy emotional roller coaster. We sold the Fillmore out, which was crazy to do.
Everybody wanted to like make the last one count.
So begins to jack slap cheer. 1, 2, 3, 4. Your mommy home, she's out stripping for your education. Your dad's out watching for the
Yeah, it's a kind of weird night. It's the end of some kind of chapter or maybe a book or something. I don't know. I'd like to just have a really good time with you guys.
Hi, Justin.
Justin played for most of the show, was really important. Of course, he should be playing that show.
There's video of us playing Sickle Suicide and like the chandeliers in the Fillmore. There's just like debris coming down from the ceiling. It looks like they're gonna break. I remember the venue emailed us and said, that is one of the most intense crowd reactions we've ever seen at this venue. Like that's one of the loudest crowds ever, like off the charts. So, you know, go Matches fans. You guys like almost broke the Fillmore.
After the show, I was just like paralyzed for a week or two. Like I couldn't feel feelings.
It wasn't for lack of effort, you know? I don't think we could look back and say, well, if only the Matches did this, that would have broke them.
Sean called me and he was like, I think I'm gonna have a new project. Will you manage it? And I was like, whoa, yeah, absolutely I would. I had to register all of his songs. I had to get access to his BMI and all that stuff. So he gave me his password and I go through everything. And I realized that there's only 4 Matches songs registered. And when I realized that there was 4 albums worth of songs that weren't registered, I thought there had to have been a mistake, and there wasn't. They weren't there. And radio play, video play, none of that money was retroactive.
Wow, that's unconscionable. If the songs were never registered, then every album that was sold and every song that was streamed just goes nowhere. Nowhere. It's like opening a movie theater and not charging anyone admission.
That's one of the most important things to do. I just registered some of our songs yesterday, so.
What? Ooh, that's a lot of money.
That's heartbreaking.
You know, when you're a manager, your job is basically to let the band be the band and try to eliminate all the ancillary business stuff that keeps them from creating. I would understand if there was some kind of like a band that was doing this for like a hobby, but you know, here's these guys that were all blood, sweat, and tears. They would go out and tour and do like 11 months out of the year and come home and have no money.
We were under the impression that our music had been registered with BMI because Miles had told us that he had registered it.
As far as we thought, it was because pretty much everything we made went back into all the expenses of touring.
And I mean, I get it. We didn't really, you know, I don't get it. I don't fucking know.
We passed up our publishing deal, and then we didn't even register our songs.
One of the things that led to us breaking up was we weren't making any money. And then to find out that, oh, we could have been making money.
So we really were missing out on like 6 years of income Money that could have kept the band going at times when like money got tight.
There was the question at that point, should we like get litigious and hire a lawyer and sue him? We wouldn't have, it would just would have been an ordeal. He would have stood to have made a lot of money off of registering the songs as well. The reality is there would have been 0 matches. The matches just wouldn't have existed if not for his involvement at the beginning either.
The song's called "To Build a Mountain."
Maybe a saint is just a dead prick with a good publicist. Maybe tomorrow's statues are insecure without their phones. Go ask the frog what the scorpion knows.
They had everything that it took to get to that level, but something was missing in that formula. A lot of times, your best traits also hold you back.
The Matches, loyal to a fault, all of them. None more than Sean. Sean is insanely loyal to his people. Sean loved Miles. I think he might have some guilt about that now, and that breaks my heart because it's such an amazing quality to have that kind of loyalty. And I think that it messed him up for a while. Like, I think that he was cutting people loose because he didn't want to make the same mistake twice. He probably carries more guilt than he should about all of that.
You can look back and Monday morning quarterback all kinds of things, but you can't go back and change it.
And I'm sorry, that's how it goes. And I thought everybody knows we're stuck fighting souls. Say so it goes.
Yeah, what was I saying? I had this great, I'm gonna relate this to like, you know, drug addiction type stuff, but like when you first become sober, you're like, you know, inches away from like a brick wall. You can't see anything but just brick. And then each day that goes by where you don't use, you suddenly realize, oh, here's a building with like a door and like windows. And then you take a few more weeks, months back and you realize, oh, there's many buildings. And then you take a few more months, a year, whatever, and you realize, oh, this is an entire city. Like I see what I'm looking at here. For me, that has become life advice, is that time gives you more perspective.
While you're driving the Matches van trailer coming in handy here. Big turd?
Yeah. Buy some hoof prints.
Oh. It would be more something that could jump around these mountains, so
Like a mountain goat.
a gazelle or a goat.
A gazelle. I want to see a mountain gazelle. That would kick ass.
When the Matches broke up, I moved away from the Bay Area. I felt like it was time to go off and try out some different things. Just completely start from scratch. Escape Sean from the Matches. The Airstream ended up being an attractive life option. Been out in this thing for like a year and a half now. Hi, Bob. You wanna come on up here? So, pretty much all of my gear fits in a backpack. There's an independence to that. I thought that would be really complemented by the Airstream life. I didn't fall into a routine that felt that different from at least that of being an artist or musician.
Bigger is over.
I'm definitely curious to hear what Matt and Justin have to say about this, though, because they like switch gears with their careers. I think that's going to be a more interesting question answered by them.
After the band, I didn't have a clue what to do. I really got to give credit to my mom, where she basically just kicked my ass. She's like, you can't stop. You got to keep moving. Like, don't lose momentum. Try and figure out what you're working for. The joke was always, if music doesn't work out, I'll always have art to fall back on. And I did. This was I guess my first real art job. Like, professional art job.
I remember him telling me, Dad, my first paycheck was more than I made in 3 years with the Matches.
I think a big part moving forward, you know, moving past the band is emotional growth. Like as becoming an adult and like being able to have a relationship and settle down. Because being in a band really doesn't teach you how to like live a life. You know, I had to find my own life, my place.
Not playing music was the next step for me. You know, I actually didn't want to be creative for a little while. Everybody's still trying to figure out what to do, what the new revenue model is, how to make the industry work financially. So I figured I was better suited going to college and getting a degree and then, you know, coming back a few years later and see where things are at. I'm very interested in like intellectual property law, which has a lot to do with music. Using my personal experience from being in a band, but then also actually having some kind of deeper knowledge to help other people.
Coming straight out of the Matches, I wanted to keep doing music, touring, make records, be a rock star, all that stuff. I think I was probably working like 10 to 15-hour days.
Fate changes you.
Nope. And then started experiencing some health problems. It started as hand pain, and my first reaction was like, ooh, that hurts. Just ignore it. It got to the point where I couldn't like grip things, so I figured I should actually probably go to the doctor. Things kept getting worse and worse and worse. Pain was starting to go up the arms, it was starting to go down my back. Both hands turned purple and cold and sweaty, and I started having back spasms all the time.
He couldn't even open a door. He was just totally disabled. The prognosis was he'd never play the guitar again.
I couldn't create, and I had a lot of people who would play guitar parts or keyboard parts that I would dictate to them, and that allowed me to keep making music. I eventually found a sports medicine doctor. He figured out that I have a disease called RSD, which is a nerve disease. There's no cure, but there's treatment options. I was asking him if I would ever play music again, and he told me that if I was lucky and if I followed my treatment like very specifically, within 2 years or so, I might start to be able to play a little bit again. And I'm like, okay, I mean, if that's what it's gonna be, like, I'm not happy about that, but it's better than what I have now. A little over a year after I got my diagnosis, the Matches met up for lunch. It was the first time all four of us had been in the same room in years.
At the time that the Matches broke up, I mean, we may have felt older, but we were just kind of really old boys. Like, we were haggard boys. Do you know what I mean? To be honest, we needed time to, like, turn into men.
While we were having pancakes, Matt was like, oh, we get our record back from Epitaph. What do we do? I was like, well, I guess we just put it up on iTunes ourselves. Otherwise, it's not on iTunes anymore. I'm like, wait a minute. Fucking put out some vinyl.
Or maybe we could do like a show or something, like play the album. And I don't know, I instinctually turned to Sean because I was expecting him to go like, nah, we don't need to do that. And then he was the first one who was like,
I think that 200 people will remember and be stoked.
And then like me and Justin looked at each other like,
shit, let's do this. Like, and let's have fun.
Fast forward, Sean called me, he was like, well, would you be interested in handling this? I was like, I would love to. I've been waiting 10 years. I always wanted to work with the Matches.
Sean was like, so, any desire to sell merch for a Matches show? And I mean, my jaw probably hit the floor. I could not believe what I was hearing.
God, I don't think I had played a note on a guitar for like a year and a half at that point.
Oh, I love it. That's awesome.
It looks like 12-year-olds. I could probably do it. Matt's talking like 9 months from now. I could probably play one show and like be okay.
What you doing?
Looking up our show. First show was about to go up on sale, and my girlfriend was like, "Oh my gosh, like I should probably get some, extra tickets." And I was like, "Oh, don't worry about it."
Well, the site's crashing on my end, so.
Mine too.
At like 10:03, my dad called me, and he was like, "Hey, like I'm trying to buy tickets for your show, and like it says it's sold out." And I was like, "No, that's not. This guy." I was like, "Dad, you're on the wrong page. Like you probably you don't know how to use a computer, like."
Right, or my computer crashed. I can't get on. It was on, and then I got disconnected.
And this was like at 10:05.
The server is not there. And we're basically trying to figure out, like, is this real?
And I was like mad. I was like, "This is gonna mess up because people are gonna be trying to buy tickets. They're gonna think it's sold out, and it's really not sold out."
10:07.
It actually sold out in a matter of minutes.
We were stunned.
And I just started crying. It was like, oh, this is real. Oh my God.
Like, holy shit, should we do another one, huh?
We put a second show on sale, and it sold out right away as well.
I don't know if I can even play one show yet. Now we're gonna do 2 shows? Okay, it'll work out. It'll work out.
Okay, I guess we need to add a third show. Okay.
Fuck, like what if I can't even do the one? I didn't tell the guys this at all. I didn't tell them I was afraid of this. This was all just like going on in the back of my head.
And now Matt just suggested playing some New York shows. So, it's so crazy.
I literally sent Matt an email, and I'm like, will there be Australian shows?
Well, if they're asking us to, I'd hate to be rude.
We saw so many bands just come and go, and there's like no trace of them. We figured once we broke up, like that was it. To sell out a show in 2 minutes is kind of mind-blowing.
Never did it occur to me to assume that we were going to come back being anywhere near a quarter of the size that we were when we left. How would that be possible? You can ask me questions all day about it. I don't understand it. It's cool.
So I do all the treatment, which was all these different specialists. After a few months, I was able to like play my first chord. I actually played my first chord on my birthday, and it was awesome. It was really amazing. I think it was a G chord. Good chord. Good chord.
Check, check, yeah! Whoa!
I know the smell of those guys, you know? They walk into a room, I'm like, that's Justin.
That's great.
We haven't played together in 5 years.
Was that right or wrong? I don't know. Just do it again. I'm not gonna think too much about it.
I think we all fell back into it naturally. And again, I think the fact that there was no real expectation and pressure beyond wanting to do well for our fans.
Stepping back into the band stuff after having like this solid foundation of like my own personal life has been just amazing.
I'm hungry.
I took my recovery really seriously, and I came out of it on the other side. I look cured, but I'm not cured. Like, I will manage it for the rest of my life.
I have no idea what to expect. I'm gonna be pretty let down if the crowd is all like dead and acting really 30, so.
I've probably been to about almost 60 Matches shows over the last 10 years.
So when I heard they were getting back together, I was out here in a second.
Yeah, I think I squealed like in my car at work. I was like,
They're my favorite band.
Yeah.
They're still my favorite band. What am I saying?
There's a huge sense of community when you come up to a Matches show.
It was the first band that they hung out afterwards, and they were actually people, and they were really cool, and I could talk to them.
I grew up in like super redneck, like Minnesota, and like, so I had like no friends. And then I went and saw the Matches, and then all of a sudden I met people who liked the same stuff I did, and like, then I had friends magically.
So which way does this go? I can't tell which side's front and back. Have fun. All right. Why are you laughing, dude? What's this? Gonna sit calm. We got on stage to plug all our stuff in. People were getting antsy, really antsy. We were getting antsy.
So you were the people that broke the internet, huh?
And then it's time to like play the first note, and we're just like, okay, I guess we're gonna do this.
I'm just a dog in pain.
And from the very first chord, just the room erupted.
I forgot about how wonderful that connection with the crowd was. Kind of felt like being home again.
They're a part of who we are. They've helped to create us as individuals.
It was an experience to be kind of reliving and paying homage to this thing that we were all part of.
It felt like a family reunion because we recognized every face in that room. The crowd was like incredibly loud. They didn't want us to stop, but it's like, we don't have any more songs we can really play. That's all we rehearsed.
This is our last one, everybody. And it goes like this.
Their energy that they had during those shows were just awesome, and the love that they showed each other and the fans, it touched a lot of people's lives.
When they played Salty Eyes at that show, it was like, holy shit, like I almost like forgot how good this was.
There's no level that means you made it. Any artist that gets to create something that changes anyone's life has made it.
It's something that it can't translate. The Matches is more than just this band that I worked for. It's beyond the music. It isn't just like, oh, I was a fan of this band. It's like a part of your identity.
The relationship that they have with their fans and that their fans have with them is different than any band that I've seen. I mean, they know their fans. And people are still getting Matches tattoos.
Generation made anything worth saving, made anything last longer than the life of a match.
We felt the love, and we weren't expecting it on that level. When you put that much of your life into something, to have people react so positively years later is really, really rewarding.
I think in the grand scheme of things, the matches were successful. But I think it also kind of it changes my idea of what success is, you know? Doing it on your own terms and actually having people that care about you and still having something to come back to.
Those initial reunion concerts for me weren't just about being in the matches again. It was also about feeling like I was back. I was moving as much as I did back in the old days. I have an appreciation for everything that I never had. Whew. Almost got a little teary-eyed there for a second. I was like, oh fuck, don't cry on camera.
I guess in the end of the day, like, what bides your time? How do you justify staying alive? How do you get from birth to death? I'm just honored that we still get to do this.
I miss Triangle Man. I swear that you believe me when I told you that I was Superman. With you I could even fool myself. I've been friends since we were 12, now I'll be 17 on the 24. You posed for 5 years on my shelf. 1, 2, 3, 4. Counting seasons till the fall when I was still your heart. You left the scene before I cried. I think about you when I'm sitting tired of stupid girls. I think about you all the time. I'm Superman with you. Oh, come on. You know you're my hero too. Oh, it might sound like a lie, but I know and you know that Superman can fly. Many times, little man to watch it burn. You've been waiting longer every day, but I'm still here. The more you live, the less I learn. I'm Superman with you. Oh, you know you're my hero too. Oh, it might sound like a lie, but I know. Superman can fly. This is just like the rest. John, where's your solo? Okay, yeah. Went to Marine World trying to find the words to say to you, but I couldn't find a place to start. I love you, I hate you, all I know is that I don't know nothing, and nothing's gonna break my heart, break down to 1,000 pieces. I'm Superman with you. Oh, you know you're my hero too. Oh, it might sound like a lie, but I know and you know that Superman can fly. Bring it in, group hug. Come on, everybody. And I just wanna focus on the good vibes. great song, you're standing in my way. Sing about anything, the wonder of simply being instead of repeating your name.